Hey quilting friends, it's Carolina Moore, your favorite sewing and quilting YouTuber, and I'm here today to talk to you about triangles on a roll, or really any kind of triangle paper at all. If you've never used this before, it is magical and I can't wait to show you. You ready? Let's get started. First, I want to tell you I'm wearing my new bobbin chicken shirt today. This is the first time I've gotten to wear this shirt. It's available in my shop. This is a design that I drew. I'll put a link down in the description, and yeah, it's a bobbin chicken that I drew and is available in my shop on different colors and styles of t-shirt. So just wanted to mention that. But today we are talking about triangle paper. Now this is triangles on a roll, and it is on a roll, so you can cut off however many you need for the project you're working on. There are different kinds of triangle paper that are already pre-printed onto either 8.5 by 11 paper. There's triangle paper that's printed onto paper that is the size of a fat eighth. So you just grab 2 fat eighths and your triangle paper and you can make your triangles. There's all different kinds of triangle paper out there. There's a CD where you can print out your own triangle paper. So I'll have links to all these down below in the description so you can find the triangle paper that's right for you. But the most important thing is to have the triangle paper that is the right sized finished triangles for the project you're working on. So for example, this one on here says it's 2-inch finished half square triangles. So that means before you sew it in a quilt, it'll still have the seam allowance and it'll be 2.5 inches. But when it's finished in the quilt, it'll be 2 inches. I've got another one here, and this is 1-inch finished half square triangles. So this roll right here, it says it makes 1,200 half square triangles. If you're making a quilt that has a lot of half square triangles in it, you'll love triangle paper. It really takes most of the work out of making half square triangles. So we're going to work with this 2-inch finish that I already have open. And what I've done is I've just cut 2 pieces of fabric, which are going to be my half square triangles, and I've cut them just a little bit wider than my triangle paper. If you're using 8.5 by 11 triangle paper, then you'll want to cut your pieces of fabric like 9 inches by 11.5 inches, a little bit smaller than that, so you can put your triangle paper on top. Okay, so we're going to lay this on top, and we're going to cut it on one of these lines. Now you can cut it on the line if you want to be able to use every single piece, or you can cut between and know that this last end is going to be waste. It's up to you. But you do want to use scissors that are not designated fabric scissors. So sometimes I'll use these on fabric, but these are not my fabric shears. These are kind of my for everything scissors, and it's okay to cut paper with these. So I'm just going to cut on this line. And I didn't do a great job of cutting on the line for this next piece, so I'm going to go ahead and just trim this one off so that I know that this one shouldn't really be used. So I'll set this aside. Now I have my 2 pieces put right sides together, and I'm going to lay my triangle paper on top. And you can either pin this, or you can use a little bit of like fabric glue stick, or even just regular school glue stick and glue. And you can pin in the middle. So you don't want to pin where all these dotted lines come together, but you can pin where the straight lines come together, or in this one where the writing is. That pin is a little stiff. There we go. And I did 2 pins there, but really 1 pin in the middle of each of these is really going to be fine. It's just to keep it from shifting. You especially don't want it to shift off of grain or off of the edge here. Okay, and yes, my pin cushion has all my assorted pins on there. Okay, so now we're going to follow the arrows, and I want to show you this before I take it to the sewing machine. I'm going to follow the arrows here off to the edge, and then I'm going to start back on. And then here I'm going to pivot, go all the way off to the edge, and then come back on. And then I can follow the arrows and do the same thing going up the other side. And then I'll follow this one and do the same thing with this one, and then come back in on the other side. So I'm going to go down and back up, and then down and back up, just following those dotted lines with my sewing machine. You do want to lower your stitch length just a little bit because we're going to be tearing the paper out. And when we tear that paper out, we want it to be easier and not have to worry about like pulling on those stitches. Shortening the stitch length will more perforate the paper, making it easier to tear out, and it makes for a stronger seam so you're not damaging the seam when you yank on it. So I'm just gonna put this underneath the sewing machine. I'm gonna put my presser foot down. There we go, now I can see that better. And just do what you can to make this as smooth and flat as possible. Now I've done one length. I'm gonna go back, then go back and forth one more time. So it's 4 sets of stitching all the way down in just this zigzag down the paper and fabric. Once you've done 2, you've probably done enough to be able to remove those pins if they're starting to poke you. In fact, I could probably even remove them now. It's just so that fabric and paper doesn't shift against one another. Okay, there we go. I have stitched on all the dotted lines of my triangle paper, and it's nice because those dotted lines basically look solid now that they've been all stitched on. And so I'm seeing all solid lines and dotted arrows. If you're still seeing any dotted lines, that means you still have some stitching to do. Now we have our solid lines, and we're gonna go ahead and cut on our solid lines. And now we can, now I've cut around all 4 sides, trimmed it up, and I'm gonna cut down the middle. Although this you can really do in any order. And then I can start cutting them into individual squares, like this. And once you have your individual squares cut, that's when you'll cut your squares into triangles. And you can remove the paper on these half square triangles. For anyone who remembers checkbooks and having to write lots of checks in checkbooks, you just go ahead and fold it on your perforation on your sewing line, and then you gently rip it away. And having that shorter stitch length is definitely going to help. You'll notice it if you forgot to do that shorter stitch length. It won't be the end of the world, but you do want to be extra careful if you didn't add that shorter stitch length. So just take out the little pieces of paper, and now your half square triangle is ready to press, and then you'll just clip off your dog ears. But I'll show you with the other side. You get the same thing. After you've taken off your papers, you can open it up and press. And you've got your perfect little half square triangles. Once these are nice and pressed, you can measure them. They'll be 2.5 inches. You'll cut off your dog ears, and then you can sew them in your quilt. However, your quilt pattern requires you to use your half square triangles, but that's it. It's that simple. That's how you use triangle paper, like triangles on a roll, or any of the other different kinds of triangle paper that I have linked down below in the description. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave those down below. I love questions and comments. Y'all give me the best ideas for future videos that you want to see, and you ask the best questions that maybe I didn't clarify fully in the video. So please leave those comments and let me know how I can help you, because these videos, they're really for you, so that you can learn all these tips and tricks that I was taught over the years and I now get to pass on to you. Anyway, friends, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you're subscribed, and I will see you right here real soon. Bye for now, my friends.